What's up? My name's Nico. Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe for inspiration on life projects and building your dream life. Today I'm going to talk about my defining moment as an entrepreneur, the reason why I started my own business 4 years ago, and why it was like a really pivotal moment in my life. So, to give you the full context, we're going to back up and about 7 or 8 years ago, I got into a relationship that was just terrible. It was so bad. It was like, that toxic magnetism. Basically, I was in a cult, and I was dating the cult leader, and we had a marriage, but it wasn't like a legal marriage. We kind of had our own wedding ceremony type thing. But I was at a time in my life getting into that relationship where like I was looking for a savior. I was looking for someone to help me. I didn't want to help myself. I didn't think I could. I wanted to just like piggyback off of someone else and support them. I was very like empathic, and I attracted someone who was very narcissistic. And I learned so much from going through that process of just getting involved with someone like that. And so I want to kind of go into depth about this because I feel like it's like a really important topic. And with the key words or key phrases is like, no one's coming to save you. You have to put in the work. Nothing changes until you do. And you are the one who's going to change your life, and no one else. Like nobody else can really help you. You have to help yourself. As much as we would like to help other people, which we can to like a small degree, really, but like real substantial life change doesn't come from other people. It comes from yourself. And so I'm talking about this experience today because it was the impetus. It was the spark or the initiation that I needed to change. And I also, maybe I'll save that topic for another video, just about change in general. But so I was in that relationship for like 3 years, and it was so terrible. I take full accountability for it too, because getting out of it, I started to realize like I took account. In retrospect, I reflected on everything, any and all reasons why I got into that relationship. Like I made it my fault, because it was it was my fault, and I have to take responsibility for that if I really want to change. And so I took a careful inventory of like the thoughts, the belief systems, everything that could have gotten me into that situation. I really sat with it and reflected on it. And I had a moment where I was actually in jail I'm not going to go into it, but it was like I basically snapped after 4 years of abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse, spiritual abuse, and I ended up in the jail. And so I'm sitting there in jail, and I'm like, how the fuck did I get in here? I don't belong here. I was like teaching the guy in my jail cell breath work and meditation, and he loved it. He's like, oh, this is going to change my life. Like, this is amazing. And so I just really like, I recognized where I was in denial in my life, and I was just very honest, and I accepted it. Like I had to. I could no longer afford to be in denial. It wasn't working. And so as I sat there, I was just having a very honest conversation, and I began to think about everything that I had to change to make sure that I never ended up in a situation like that again. And like I'm loyal. I'm a very loyal person. I don't cheat on people. I don't believe in that. Like I have a lot of integrity in relationships, and that was like part of my problem, was that I just loved this person so hard and for too long, and it was just being taken advantage of. And a little more context, I was kind of duped by this whole spiritual thing. Like, she was my twin flame, and like there was this crazy attraction between us, and it just felt like magnetism. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? It feels so powerful. And it happened so fast, and I was hooked like pretty quickly. And it didn't really ever feel good from the start. It's kind of like a relationship with a drug, or like an addiction that you're like trying to kick. And so I want to kind of go deeper into like some of the dynamics, the abuse cycle, the like love bombing or posturing from the narcissist so they can get what they want, or like victim blaming, because there's all kinds of tactics that they have. And like one of the things that I feel endowed with after having gone through this experience is having a good bullshit radar, and just being able to like sense this kind of stuff from other people intuitively, and so that you can avoid the right people and like build healthy network with the right people while having boundaries with the ones who may not be. And it's like I don't want to make it sound like it is serious, but it's not. Like, I'm at a point in my life now, 4 years later, where I just feel so much better. I've done the work to get out of that. Like, I was in debt, I was broke, I was in a terrible relationship. I wanted someone to save me, but I had to save myself. And I just was like, I gotta do it. So anyways, these types of people, some people call them cluster B personality types. They often have tactics, and they're often very wrapped up in themselves. So like, I just want to, off the top of my head, kind of go over them as they come in. But like love bombing. So initially, this is what happens when they're trying to get you hooked. They will just love you up. They'll like tell you like you're so amazing, or I love the way you did this, or like you're an incredible person because of this. And they really just love bomb you. And what this does psychologically is like, one, it builds your confidence. It can build your confidence, but it's actually a false confidence because it's coming from someone else that's just feeding it to you. So people are vulnerable to this because they've never had that kind of validation. They've never had someone telling them they're doing so well, or whatever. And so like when someone finally is like, oh my God, you see me, and you're giving me all this love and validation, they fall in love with it. And then after that person is attached to the narcissist, and they've got them where they want, then they withdraw their love. They start looking for like the next victim that they can hook with love bombing or whatever. And so it's a very vicious thing. So you can watch out for that. The other thing is posturing. These people tend to put on a front, which is not really who they are. And so I believe it's like a psychological term, posturing, but they'll pretend to be something that they're not, so that they can manipulate people into scenarios or situations, or basically getting them to do what they want. These types of people are often control freaks, and they have to have things go their way, like they're the center of the universe. So posturing is one of those things. They'll often like appear like an expert, or like they know a lot, when really they may not. It's a facade. And like one of the ways I like to imagine it is they started doing this with storefronts. They have that like facade where they make the building look bigger or nicer than it really is by building that like top piece, which is just for decorations and aesthetic and appeal. But there's actually like nothing behind it. It's just a sign. It's just for looks, just to get you to go into the store. And so it's kind of like that. I like that metaphor because it seems to make sense. They also will try another tactic they can do is trying to, I'm sure there's a term for this, but I don't know it. They just corner you with questions. So like interrogate you. And so they'll be very direct and ask you a bunch of questions, basically to get information. And typically these types of people are good at is smelling vulnerabilities or fear, because that's how they get in. And so like if you're someone who doesn't has low self-esteem, this is the perfect target. Low confidence, low self-esteem, doesn't have a lot going for them, is looking for someone else to help them in their life or save them. And these people often, some of them, not all of them, the one I was with had a savior complex. And so it's like you immediately get into this dynamic where like I'm the savior and you're the one being saved. Like I'm kind of on the pedestal and you're the one I'm helping. And so there's this like superiority complex, savior complex type thing that's really just like, it's just gross. And what actually ends up happening is that they will always project their own unhealed pain onto the people that they're helping. And not all the time, but like it's mixed, right? It's like truths and lies. And you cannot let the truth, like if there is good things, but there's also bad things, and usually there's a lot more intense bad things, like you can't compromise. Like don't focus on the good things. Like you deserve a relationship where it's safe. There's no conflict. You both support each other. You're watering each other like house plants. And it's never like you deserve that, and you 100% can have that. Like I'm in an incredible relationship now, and I'm so grateful. I feel like I'm so lucky. I really am. I have an amazing partner, and we just support each other. We've been able to grow. We've been able to begin building our dream life together. My partner now also has come from kind of a very similar situation with a toxic narcissist. And so now, like, we're both such givers. We just get to give to each other. But I'll talk about that in another video. I want to continue talking about like some of these tactics that they have. You know, I still realize that I'm a little like I'm healing from this still, and I used to think that like I used to be the total like new age spiritual guppy, and like I'm healing, and like I'm here to help people. Like it's my job to help people heal. And so that was kind of the ego identity of this whole twin flame spiritual relationship, was like we're here to help other people. It was a small cult, the ETL, Enhance the Light mission, and so I'll tell you like some of the rituals or like little ceremonies or gatherings we would do, and what would happen. So you know, we put on events on Friday nights, and we do like rebirthing breathworks or just things like that. But we would get into like this group processing thing where we would take turns kind of in a hot seat, and people would get in the hot seat, and then the leader would kind of start this experience where like we would help the person process their stuff, which, you know, to be completely honest, I don't think it was actually that helpful. Like some people think it's helpful, but for me, where I'm at now, I'm just like, first of all, I don't know that any of that stuff helped. It may have by like digging it up and looking at it, but if you're just continually like looking for your own pain and trauma and trying to heal it, you're going to create it. You're going to recreate that stuff over and over. And at some point it's like, aren't I done? Not that you can actually be completely healed, but like my brother-in-law had shared with me a great metaphor. Like as I was going through this and getting support from him, he's like, Nico, everyone has their shit. Like I know that if I dig, I'm going to hit a sewer line somewhere. I know it's down there, but I don't need to know how it works. I don't need to fix it. Like it's okay. And when he told me that, I was just like, oh my gosh. You know, you're so right. Like it's like everyone has their baggage. We're imperfect humans. And when people perpetuate this like cycle of healing or working on themselves, it's, it can be it can be an escape. It can be a way to spiritually bypass, because the real work is life. It's showing up. It's doing the dishes. It's making sure your house is clean. It's making sure you have all your finances in order. You're hopefully able to pay everything. You don't have debt, and you're saving money, and you're working on projects that make you feel like your life has meaning and purpose. It's having fulfilling relationships and healthy family relationships, and like doing the work to be able to show up in those things and give of yourself and just be there. Like these spiritual healing circles that I thought were good for me were actually the thing that was like damaging my life. Isn't that so ironic? It's really so funny how that works. So it was actually like a big form of spiritual bypassing. One of the other tactics they can do is they can isolate you from your friends and family. So like when I got into this, with her influence, I actually deleted my Facebook. I like left my family. I like didn't hardly talk to them at all for months at a time. And I was just in this little world with her and this little cult we had. And so that's just another tactic, is like isolation from your friends and family. And so watch out. So what these rituals would look like is like we'd often stay up late. We'd have an event, we'd have people over, we might have some snacks, and then like as the night came, we would go deeper and deeper, and we would stay up all night sometimes, like literally all night. And what happens, like you get tired, your psyche kind of, I don't know, it's a way to like socially engineer or group engineer. And this person was, she did have some gifts, but like in this case, like her family would say, she's bipolar, or she's a paranoid schizophrenic, or she has like severe PTSD, suffers from insomnia or things like this. And so we'd stay up all night, we would process, we would have people in the hot seat, we'd all take turns, and we would all process and process and process. And what happens is like the psyche gets worn down, and you, as the night goes on and the group gets more tight knit, like you tend to bond more and more, and you become subject to social conformity inside the cult container. And so it's like you begin to become okay with certain things, and the more exposure you get to that over more longer periods of time, it's like that's just normal. It's just what we do here. And it's fucking fucked up. Like it's not. When I think back on some of the things that went on, I'm just like, that's crazy. That shit is crazy that I allowed myself to be a part of that, and that I was okay with it. And so there were some just strange things that went on, and I think that it's obviously, like in retrospect, I realized that those types of people they kind of prey upon people who are vulnerable, people who are seeking, people who need help, who have low self-esteem, etc., etc. One of the other things, the tactics, is like they can build a sense of authority within you, kind of like I was telling you before. But like, just to be completely honest and frank, like I thought this person was the Lady of Light, as she called herself, and I thought that I was Lucifer. And she had kind of created this role for me to step into, and everything we did was to bring me into this role. And I loved it. Like I loved spirituality. Like I was into all this stuff, and I was like, sure, like let's play with it. Like let's have fun. That was kind of my take. And like through all of this, I felt like this was an experience that my soul needed, and I just kept going. Even when there was like all kinds of stuff that like friends were telling me, like, dude, what are you doing? You shouldn't be in this, or family, like. So that allure was very strong. Like I thought, in the name of spirit or spirituality and good, I thought what I was doing was genuinely good. And that's the problem with these kinds of people too, because that's what they believe. And so really, there's no winning. There's no arguing with them. Like, the best thing you can do with those kinds of people is to completely just back off, just disengage, do not react, do not respond, just leave. Get out of there. That's the only solution. That's the only solution that's worked for me. And I can't imagine that there's actually anything else that works. And so, yeah, those are some of the things. I think that a lot of this is like coming to a head more these days. But what I learned after going through this situation was that, like, because this was a little micro experience within the world, small cult, but like this is also how, you know, like if you scale it up, religions, governments, or communities or countries, like we're being fucked with, like we're being screwed with, like the food, the system that keeps people sick, like all of the sugar and the additives and preservatives and stuff in our food, that like we've just been duped by it. Like it gives it a longer shelf life, or it grows better crops, or it cleans the water with, you know, fluoride and chloride and chlorine. Like we have been conditioned that these things are okay, and they're not. This is the other thing, is like it's a slow drip, like, and it's actually so dangerous. I genuinely believe that it's better for someone to get burned bad intensely over a short period of time so that it jolts them and it wakes them up, versus like this like frog in the boiling pot, where just like over a long period of time. And this is where it's happened in as far as like health and wellness and stuff in our country, is like that we've been the frog in the boiling pot. It has continually become boiling, and we haven't realized it until like just now. Like it's piercing the mainstream. People are looking for real answers for their health. It's like the pharmaceuticals and the drugs, like they kind of work, but at the expense of having all of this other bullshit, all of the other side effects. And so I learned that like that's what's going on a larger scale, and what can we do? And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but like what I can tell you today is like, you got to help yourself. You've got to eat better. You've got to take care of your health. You need to get your finances in order, have healthy relationships, and enjoy life. It's like, it's too short. It's too precious for someone else to just profit off of our own ignorance and naivety and good-heartedness. And so, you know, it's a real like important question. It's like, what can we do? Do we enter the legal system, like become a politician and try and affect change? Like, you want to go head to head and fight with this giant monstrous corporation, or, you know, get into the trenches in that regard? Or it's like, do I just surrender and I just live my life the way I can? Like, I only worry about the things I can control and show up in the ways that I know how within my community. And it's a real question, you know, and I've kind of come to the solution, the resolve that like all I can do is manage what I have control over, and that's myself. And so like, it's part of the reason I've decided to build a better life and create like exactly what I prefer. Because I that 4 years was such a blessing, because I got fucked. It was so bad, but I woke up. It was an initiation, and I'm so glad that I went through that, because that like I said, I think that slow drip is actually more dangerous, because people can live in that for years, for a very long time, until one day they're like, man, they wake up from it and they're like, I just spent all this time believing in these things that actually were not true or helpful, and they were deceiving me and maybe even profiting because of, or whatever. But there's no shame or guilt. Like, everyone has their own timing. I'm just grateful that for what I went through, it was an intense burn. So that was like my defining moment, was going through this relationship, ending up in jail, taking inventory about, the things I was in denial about and what I had to change in order to not end up in that kind of a situation again. And so I decided that I was going to change. And so I started a business. I decided that I was going to work for myself, that I wasn't going to give my precious time and energy to someone else, working for someone else, like I had done my whole life. Like I was ready to commit to myself. And being like, up until that point, I was like very empathic, codependent, and I changed. Like though it took 24, 20, 26, 27 years to just finally get to this point where overnight I was like, you know what? I got to do it myself. Like no one's coming to save me. And I think that's one of the most profound lessons that we can learn in life, is like, and it's kind of harsh, but like that's life sometimes, man. Like, not that you're on your own, but you're going to make or break yourself. And I actually liked having that weight on my shoulders. I was like, no one's gonna fuck this up except for me. So it's on me if this business makes it or doesn't make it. And I liked that. Like I liked having that sense of responsibility, because I had never given myself that kind of responsibility in my life. And so it just felt good to bear up with that. And so I started a business. 4 years later, here I am, and like are doing pretty good. Like I'm able to buy a van and build it out and like have time to do my favorite things like garden and permaculture and go to the gym and exercise and like do YouTube videos. I'm no longer in fight or flight. Like I spent so much of my life in that, I think. And like, especially in those 4 years, it was just constantly fight or flight. Like that's the other tactic, is like these people bring you down to their level. They have to, in order to, I just feel like that's just what they have to do to keep reinforcing their bubble reality, to maintain their sense of control, which really isn't, like it only exists in that bubble reality, which is like a facade. And it's exhausting, and like it's constantly, like another word for them is inflamers. That's what they do. They go around inflaming people. So the other, it's I've also wondered, like evolutionarily, why these types of people might exist. Because these, I mean, we could call it like parasitic relationships. Like they exist, they're in nature, they're even in us. Like we have parasites as a part of our microbiome. And I wonder if they exist because they are actually catalysts for evolution. And maybe on a bigger picture, like maybe that's why they're here. Like maybe that's why life or evolution has placed them inside of this existence, is so that they can be some of the catalysts for change. I've also thought a lot about change and how, like why people change, and can we actually change without having like a crisis. That's a topic for another video, but like I think that goes so deep, and I think we can change, and we might not think we're changing, but it's because we're taking small steps every day. And then over the course of a year or a few years, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I have, like, look how far I've come. And so I just wanted to share that with you today. We talked about like some of the tactics that narcissists use to hook people. Like we talked about my defining moment, what was the impetus or initiation for me to really step into my own path, create a business, and start building the dream life that I really prefer, and and kind of how these tactics, that exist within one person are also some of the things that are going on a larger scale, like within governments and religious organizations and things like that. And so I hope this offered some value to you. Please like and subscribe if you like this content. I'm really excited to continue sharing my journey with you in hopes that it inspires you to live your best life. Thanks.